so far the RX-7 restoration project is going great. In the previous episodes, we've already pulled out the engine and prepared it for a rebuild. We've also completely transformed the interior from old and original to completely brand new. I think everything's going pretty well so far, but today we kind of need to face a few chores, and that includes cleaning the entire engine bay and get it ready for the engine being put back in after the rebuild. And also we're going to be tearing down the entire engine and prepare it for the actual rebuild. So I would say let's start with cleaning the engine bay, because this is probably the most tedious job. For this, I will be using common hand tools like a 10mm ratchet, as well as some brake clean, and obviously tissue, gloves. And a friend of mine also suggested me this cleaning, whatever this is. It's called Wonder Clean, and I really hope this cleans well, because we have to clean this entire engine bay. Before we can test it out though, we first need to get rid of all of the loose debris and vacuum the living crap out of this engine bay. But let's keep this very brief, because I cannot wait to tear down the engine. But let's not miss out on the time-lapse ASMR. Okay, that's enough ASMR for today. And I gotta say, this Wonder Clean stuff doesn't suck as much as I thought, and I was able to get most of the grime off. Obviously, it's not perfect, even though I have removed many parts in the engine bay to be able to clean everything very well, but that's totally fine, and I'm more than happy with the end result. Now for the firewall, I actually have a pretty cool idea, because that's not going to stay white. I still cleaned it for good measure though. Also, I thought while I'm at it, I would just give the power steering pump pulleys a new paint job. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, it's time to pull apart the engine. And to be honest, I'm kinda nervous about it, because see, the FC actually has 200,000 kilometers on the clock, which leads me to believe that this sucker is probably not the first engine that this car has ever had. I just hope it's still in good shape. I'm really curious on what's hiding inside, to be honest. Let's crack this baby open, and let's start with this huge nut that holds the flywheel in. After removing the giant 54mm nut that secures the flywheel, it is time to remove the front cover to gain access to the so-called front stack. This stack consists of some gears, one of which spins the oil pump via a chain, a spacer, and 2 Torrington bearings. And after removing the oil pump assembly, as well as the front counterweight, we can take a look at these teeny weeny Torrington bearings before flipping the engine again and removing the flywheel. And now that the front cover and the flywheel is off, it is time to finally pull apart the engine. This starts with loosening all 18 tension bolts, which run through all of the plates and housings and sandwich the entire motor together. Alright guys, as you saw, my dad actually also joined because he was super curious to see how one of these works, because like me, he has never seen one of these in real life opened up. So anyways, we got it opened up. This is our first rotor, and just as a reference, if you've never seen a rotary engine before, this is my hand and this is the rotor. Like, it really doesn't show on video how tiny these are. Now, I've already noticed that on this corner seal right here, there is a missing rubber piece. Yeah, well, I think we're gonna be hit with many surprises while tearing this thing down. But looking at the rotor housings, they actually look super good. They don't have like any, yeah, you cannot feel anything. They're smooth as a baby's butt. Seriously, it's crazy. Yeah, we're just gonna tear it apart. And guys, take a look at this insane amount of carbon buildup on the rotors. These, by the way, are the infamous Apex seals, which definitely need to be replaced. Alright, everything's falling in there. It's okay, I'm gonna take care of that later. Almost pinched my foot down. Oh, heavy. This would be our front rotor. So far, I think everything looks pretty good. Apart from the Apex seals, these are just completely done. These should have been changed like years ago. I mean, obviously this thing has been sitting for 14 years, so. Yep, as to be expected, all of the seals go flying. That's totally fine. Okay, and that would be our front housing. Okay guys, now that we've finally disassembled the engine, I definitely need to go over these with a pressure washer. These are just filthy and insane. I went back home and used the pressure washer to clean the housings as well as the irons. And as you can tell by the clip playing right now, pressure washing didn't work very well, and I had to find a different solution and resorted to a soft wire wheel, which thankfully worked amazing to clean the 13B. Okay guys, and now that we've got the cleaning process out of the way, let's take a look at one of the rotor housings, because this, to my surprise, looks actually pretty good. Obviously, it's not perfect and it really should get some resurfacing, but I'm gonna talk about that in a second. I couldn't find any cracks, nothing. Also, when I run my fingernail over the surface, it's super smooth. There are no gouges, which is definitely very exciting. The one thing I saw on the spark plug holes, there's a little crack, but it's still in spec, thankfully. And as you can see, it's not perfectly clean yet. I still have to go over it with degreaser and also scrape out all of the corrosion from the cooling jackets. But other than that, this thing is rebuildable, I think. And even though I've cleaned the housings relatively well at this point, it still doesn't really look great, which is why I've decided to give it a full paint job. And no, I'm not gonna paint it white, this is simply the primer. And I know this is probably a little controversial, but I've decided to go for a very unconventional color combo here. Because, see, I'm kind of a sucker for pink, so I thought, well, why not? And after all, real men wear pink and Sigma males build pink engines. Shout out to Samet and Okachan from Yashio Factory. Guys, believe me when I tell you, this video was probably the most tedious video to make because, well, of all of the cleaning, the engine bay is clean now, the engine is semi-clean, I still need to clean the rotors, but like, seriously, this is such a tedious job, it's just incredible. And at some point I was literally like, no, screw it, I'm not gonna film that right now. I was so pissed, seriously. Because, oh my god, this is heavy. Cleaning the engine actually not only includes cleaning the outside of the engine, but also cleaning all of these little coolant seal grooves and yeah, scraping everything out. This was extremely tedious. And just as a small reference, this is my table after cleaning all of the rotor housings and the irons. Seriously, I'm just super excited for the next video because that will be much more fun, I think. I'm just glad when all of this is over and we can finally put this thing back together. But until then, peace out, like and subscribe.